want to remind you too that votes are going to be via roll call. All the motions have predetermined movers and seconders to help with the logistics of the meeting. And I'll ask you to confirm those intentions as we deal with each agenda item. Bit of a change from last meeting. We will have motions to receive for information reports, as that constitutes notice of motion, which then allows the board to modify or amend the motion into a specific action without being contrary to our bylaws. And finally, you'll note that today's meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the Upper Thames YouTube channel as part of our requirement to allow public viewing of proceedings. I'll now do the traditional territorial greeting and follow that with the roll for who's here. We'll begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Lapane people, who have a long-standing relationship to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. The local First Nation communities of this area include Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation at Moravian Town. In the region, there are 11 First Nation communities and a growing Indigenous urban population. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island, which is North America. We have regrets from Hugh. I didn't see if Tony got into the meeting yet. I don't see his name. Hopefully he can still join us. Michelle, could you now call the roll so that we can post attendance for the public record?
Yes. Marie Blosh,
Good morning, I'm here.
Alan Dale,
Present.
Don Edmiston,
Don's still muted.
Don,
Here.
Anna Hopkins,
Here.
Tony Jackson, Sandy Levin,
Here.
Nancy Manning,
Here.
Hugh McDermott, Paul Mitchell,
Here.
Anna Marie Murray,
Present.
Brian Petrie,
I'm here.
Jim Reffel,
Here.
Joe Salter,
Here.
Mark Schadenberg,
Here.
Alex Westman.
Here.
All right, need a mover and a seconder of the agenda approval. Anna, would you move it? And Anna Marie, would you second it?
Yes, I'm prepared to do that.
Anna,
I'll move.
okay. Are there any alterations to the agenda? Seeing none. Michelle, could you call the roll for approval?
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale, Alan,
Yes.
Don Edmiston, Don,
He's muted.
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony's not here, Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Sandy Levin.
Yes. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? I see no hands and I hear no response. Minutes of the previous meeting of Tuesday, May 26, 2020. I'd ask Nancy to move it and Marie to second it. Are you all right with that?
So moved.
And seconded.
I want to recognize Brian because I understand there is an amendment. And Chris, if you could put that on the screen, I'd appreciate it.
Computer was really quick before, so it's coming. Still trying. Come on. Sorry. It's never been this slow. Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on, but it's trying. There we go. Sorry.
Okay, so I would like to move an amendment to change the wording in the minutes under the section, this section here. It has to do with the point of order that was brought up and why the chair had ruled, how the chair had ruled. And it just makes it more clear as to why that happened. So the current wording is, let's go. Given that the point of order may only be raised during the meeting in which the procedural matter occurs, and that original motion regarding item 7.1 of the agenda of the annual agenda meeting did not comply with the UTRCA's administrative bylaws, the chair ruled the point of order had no standing at this time. The new version would be the chair ruled the point of order had no standing at this meeting because the point of order may only be raised during the meeting in which the procedural matter occurs, and that the original motion regarding the item 7.1 of the agenda of the annual general meeting did not comply with UTRCA's administrative bylaws. So it just switches the order around and gives that the chair ruled and then why instead of the other way around. Just a little more clarity, I think.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for the amendment? Looking for either hands or someone to say so.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jim. Any other amendments to the minutes? So do we need to approve the amendment and then the minutes as amended? Let's do that just to be safe. So on the amendment, Michelle, could you call the roll?
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale, Alan,
Yes.
Don Edmiston,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Sandy Levin.
Yes. So approval of the minutes as amended. Michelle, I need you to call the roll again.
Excuse me. Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes.
Don Edmiston,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Sandy Levin.
Yes. Believe there's no business arising from the minutes. There are no delegations. We're on to item 6, business for approval. First item is the 20-year flood control capital repair plan report. Can I get Paul to move it and Anna Marie to second it?
I will move that.
I will second.
Thank you. Now, Chris isn't here at the meeting, but Dave is available to answer any questions. Anyone on the board want, see, okay, Paul, then Anna?
Yeah, if my math is correct, the chart on capital repairs for next projection for next 20 years shows that for years 1 to 5, we'll spend an average of 3.7 million. Years 6 to 10, an average of just under 3.6 million. And then from years 11 to 20, an average of 2.3 million. And you'd expect with inflation that number would go up. But does that lower number indicate that there'd be less work needed in years 11 to 20 of the structures that need repairs?
Dave?
Yes, through the chair. Yeah, so the reason the number goes down based on the average dollar value for the 20 years is for the next 5 to 10 years, we have quite a bit of work going on for the West London dikes, which is a high dollar value. Because the design life of these dike rehabilitations is greater than 20 years, that's the reason why you're seeing a reduction in the average value once you get beyond the 10 years.
Okay, thank you.
Anna?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a question. I'll follow up with the West London Dyke about the funding. I know we were waiting for funding to come. I'm just wondering if we've received anything, and I know there's a bit of a delay and just kind of curious. And my second question is about the Springbank Dam, noticing that there's quite a difference between the 5 years to the 20-year, and just understanding that difference in amounts and what they pertain to.
Okay, I'll ask Christine to answer the first question about the money, and then over to Dave for the Springbank Dam question.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. If Anna's question, if I understand Anna's question, she's asking about the federal National Disaster Mitigation Program funding for West London dikes, and we haven't seen any money from the feds through the province in maybe 6 or 8 months now. So we are still waiting for 2.9 million from that program that ended in March.
And Dave, Springbank Dam?
Yes, and just to expand on Christine's answer a little bit, I think Anna might have been asking for the WECI funding results too. So we did receive the 1.7 million for the West London Dyke for the WECI. So in case Anna was wondering that. So on to the second question about Springbank Dam. Right now, the City of London is going through the request for qualifications for the Springbank Dam decommissioning. So we are holding some values in the 20-year plan, not knowing what's going to come out of the RFP for the Springbank Dam decommissioning. So that's the reason why we've tried to push the projects to future years, just in case the decommissioning takes into account some of those projects. So that's the reason why we're still carrying some values. We're kind of waiting for that process to move along.
Yeah, thank you for that. So in other words, where I know the decommissioning conversation is still to proceed. So you're looking at the Springbank Dam in all its alternatives, more or less, with this amount.
That's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mark?
Yeah, I guess my question through whoever can answer is more of a protocol thing. I know that the municipalities all have asset management programs that the province has put into place. So I was curious if this is more of an asset management program. Again, is it something dictated by the province, or is it something from conservations associations of Ontario, or is it more just something we do to make sure we're prepared financially and structurally for the future?
Who from staff would like to answer that?
I can answer that, Sandy.
Please, Dave.
Yeah, so it's kind of a yes to all of your questions. So the Upper Thames has been putting together the 20-year plan since 2008, just as a document to help manage planning for future projects. So the Upper Thames is also trying to build an asset management plan. So this document helps with the asset management plan that's being set up by the purchasing and accounting department. So they kind of work hand in hand in helping us plan for future projects and then also manage them, and then also include the estimates with the various funding applications.
Mark?
No, thanks for the answer. That's kind of what I was concerned about. I didn't want to go all the way back to sort of day one on this report, but felt maybe as a rookie on this committee, I certainly needed the answer to that. Thanks.
Okay. I see no other hands. So I'd like to call the roll on the motion regarding the 20-year flood control capital repair plan. We have 3 recommendations. Hopefully we can call them all together then. Anyone need to call them separately? See no hands. Michelle, call the roll, please.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes.
Don Edmiston,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Sandy Levin.
Yes. On to item 6.2, framework for COVID-19 resuming operations plan. Can I ask Brian to move it and Jim to second it?
I so move.
I second that.
Okay. Ian, this is your report. Would you like to speak to it or just respond to questions?
I will say a few remarks.
Please.
Tracy's participating in the call as well, and she's one of the principal authors and can answer questions. But I'll say a number of staff contributed to this, as is indicated on the report. We are bringing this to you for approval. We believe this is kind of an unprecedented impact on operations, on service delivery, but we're also making clear that this plan is going to change, and it's not really our intent to bring it back to the board each time. But as provincial direction changes or becomes more clear, and as public health direction changes or becomes more clear, we just want to disclose to you that we will adapt to meet those provincial and local guidances, but it wouldn't be our expectation that we would bring the report back repeatedly for approval again. However, we will keep you updated. So beyond that, I'll just leave it to the board if there's questions, and I think I'll put Tracy on the spot and have her answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Brian?
Much less of a question than a comment, and I just want to say that wow, you guys really put a lot of work into this, and it shows. It shows that you take it seriously, and you're going to be well prepared. You guys have done a very thorough job, so I'm very pleased with that. Much better than a lot of private sector places. So thank you for that, and make sure everybody's safe.
Okay. Paul, then Anna?
Yeah, I'll echo Brian's comments. I read through this, and I couldn't find a single thing that you missed out in your plan. My question is, do you have a sense of the anxiety level of staff coming back to work as to fear about catching COVID-19? And I'm coming from it from two angles. One is that hopefully nobody is experiencing excessive stress about going back to work. But on the other hand, other than in London, the rest of the areas in the Upper Thames had very low infection rates. So we've got all these protocols and rules in place, and it's one thing to enforce the rules because they're the rules, but it's a little bit different to enforce the rules because you think that they're important, that they're enforced. So I just wonder if there's a comment on the feeling of staff towards the actual threat to them and to the public at this point in the pandemic.
Good question, Paul. Thank you. I wonder if, Jennifer, if you want to start that discussion, because you're the area that's open the quickest, and perhaps it's your staff that might be responding to the kinds of things that Paul's raised.
Yeah, we've definitely seen some apprehension from staff. Obviously they're doing their best to get the parks open, but safety is first, and everyone supports that. The Joint Health and Safety Committee has been amazing in helping us write our standing operating procedures. I've made some new best friends at the health unit. They have been extremely helpful. And so I think the fact that we're not, rushing into the fire. So yeah, they give us 48 hours to get our parks open. We're not rushing into the fire. We're taking the time to make sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted before staff have to, start entertaining the public in that respect.
Okay, Tracy, did you want to speak to people who might be coming back to work at some point?
Sure, through the chair. Certainly that has been kind of first and foremost on the Joint Health and Safety Committee's mind. So when we were having our meetings and having these discussions, the whole mental health aspect was very much a high priority. We wanted to recognize that and recognize those staff that we have trained in mental health as well, because we recognize each staff person may be coming from a different place, right? Some people may be caring for young children or the elderly who are vulnerable and may have those fears for passing it along, not even as much about themselves. So certainly something that we wanted to make sure that we were incorporated into this document, and really to make sure that managers and supervisors are continuing to have those conversations with staff to understand what their fears are. Is it something that is about more information to be shared, more education, or change in circumstances to make sure that either PPE or physical barriers are incorporated as engineering design and controls can be put in place to better and keep our staff safe. So kind of all of those things, again, depending on the staff person, it really depends on what their level of comfort is. We heard from staff at the parks at the Joint Health and Safety Committee table that there's some staff who have been working the entire time and have been around people. This is just a new job that they're doing. Certainly nothing different. Yet there's the other end of the spectrum that people who've been at home and self-isolating and first coming out and realizing, oh, there's a lot of people around. So like I say, each person is going to have their own personal response to returning to work. We want to recognize that that can change and be variable amongst them.
Paul, did you want any other staff to respond, or are you satisfied with the responses?
No, I'm pleased with both those responses there. We've been heard for 3 months as the front lines, and Tracy and Jennifer are both on the front lines when it comes with dealing with the public and have been all along. So out in the country, my experience is that there's not a lot of concern about the pandemic at this point, but I know that's not the universal reaction to what's going on now. So I just wanted to get some input. Got a wonderful plan here, very, very thorough, but it's going to be up to the individual staff to implement it. So I just wanted to get some feeling of where they were at. And I I fully understand that it's wide variety. There are going to be some people who are really concerned and some people that have very little concern. So I just was looking for some input on that. So I appreciate both Tracy and Jennifer's comments. Thank you.
Okay. Anna, then Jim.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do want to thank staff for this information. You can tell there's a lot of work, a lot of thought that was put into this. So thank you to staff. I do have just a comment about it too. I like the idea of it being called a living document. I think that's something that we have to all realize, that things will be changing as we go through the different phases, and that flexibility that is needed. I am curious a little bit about the amount of staff that are working from home, and I would assume as we come out to the new normal that staff will continue to work from home, and I'm really interested to sort of more or less watch how that is all going to transpire, and what and how different things will look. But my I guess another comment I have is about the signs that are put out for how we're supposed to wear masks, and the photographs of taking your gloves on and off, these synthetic blue gloves. And I would love to see a picture at the end that these synthetic gloves go into a garbage can or something, because I am starting to notice along the roads and streets that I venture onto. I used to be at one time Tim Hortons cups, and now I'm starting to see a lot of synthetic gloves and masks somehow just being disposed. So as we try to educate, I think underlying the importance of having these gloves go into something that is like a container of some sort. Just a comment there. The other thing too, I know I was very pleased to see this letter from the Conservation of Ontario going to the minister about the process that we started with looking at conservation authorities and changing maybe the way we perform, and supporting AMO's request. I do sit on the AMO board, that maybe right now is not the time to start implementing these changes. But I am curious to know, through you, Mr. Chair, if we have received further information. I know we were going through a stakeholders consultation process, and then COVID happened. And have we heard anything further about these consultations and the process?
Can I suggest we hold that off until the next item, which
is that on the next item?
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay. Jim? Jim Ruffle, still muted. Oh,
there we go. I just want to echo, through you, Mr. Chair, want to echo the comments made on this very comprehensive and well thought out report and framework, and understanding it's a living evergreen document that's going to change as needed. And having worked in public health for over 30 years, I really see the content as being very relevant and well thought out. The role of whoever is going to be evaluating how this is implemented is going to be very important, to have touchstone times to make sure that the plan is implemented as written. And so I think that will require a lot of time for staff awareness and to ensure that it's being complied with. And I was also happy to see that there was no requirement for a doctor's note when people are ill and not needing to come to work, and which really puts a lot of extra work on the medical community and puts people at risk potentially. So kudos to the staff who put this together. There's still more work to do as this unfolds, and I appreciate the fact that you've spent a lot of time thinking about mental health issues and how people are exactly coming from different places. So again, that's just my comments.
Thank you, Jim. Alan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, very good document, lots of information there. I just wanted to pick up on something that Anna mentioned, and I'm seeing this all over and hearing from other municipalities that waste management. So I'm just wondering if we have a little bit of a extra garbage receptacles, increased pickup of garbage, this sort of thing, because it is a real problem right now. People are suddenly getting out and they're flocking to public spaces and they're just leaving material behind. They don't want to take it with them. They don't want to touch anybody else's stuff. They don't want to pick it up. And I'm sure staff have got it all in hand, but I just wanted to ask the question. Thanks.
Jennifer, I think you'd probably have the most to say about this.
Yeah, we definitely have seen an increase in garbage, and we did put out extra cans actually prior to the parks even being opened. But definitely, we too have noticed some of those products being discarded on the ground and whatnot before people actually use the can. So.
Okay, Ellen, anything else?
Okay, thank you. No, that's good, thanks.
Okay, I see no other hands, and we've had a mover and a seconder for 6.2, the recommendation before us. So I'll ask Michelle to call the roll that we approve the recommendation as presented.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes.
Don Edmonston,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Sandy Levin.
Yes. Item 7.1 is the letter from Conservation Ontario to the minister. Can I ask Joe to move it and Mark to second?
Yes, I'll move the recommendation.
I'm fine with that. Yes.
And Ian, I don't know if you have anything to say about it. I know Anna has already asked if we've heard anything back as Conservation Ontario regarding the matters referred to in the letter.
Yeah, through the chair to Anna, I'm not aware of any formal response to this letter. Certainly Conservation Ontario continues to work with provincial staff lobbying for some of the requests that are in the letter. And I will say that AMO has certainly been a real ally in trying to navigate the changes required through Bill 108. And I will say, as an add-on, even some non-government organizations are coordinating their efforts to participate in this discussion and to defend the roles that conservation authorities play. So I'm not aware of any response yet. There is a general managers meeting this coming Friday morning, and I expect this to be one of the agenda items. So certainly as soon as we know of any response or even action on this file, I'll let the board know.
Anna, technically you still have the floor on this. Anything else?
No, and I do apologize for jumping the gun, but
Oh,
I
don't
am
worry.
very,
Don't worry.
when I see things like this and AMO supporting conservation authorities in terms of, how we move forward and the cautionary approach as we deal with COVID and the pressures, the financial pressures as well. So I'm glad to see this, and we'll sort of stay tuned to see how we move forward. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the board? Seeing none, can I call the roll that we receive the report as presented?
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes.
Don Edmonston,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Ruffle,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Stoutenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Sandy Levin.
Yes. We'll move on to 7.2, the Section 28 status report. I'll ask Alex to move it and Marie to second it.
So moved.
And seconded.
Thank you. Questions from the board to staff? Paul.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Tracy. My question's about the chart and the column that says comply with standards. And I notice there are a number that have a no in that column, but yet they've been issued a permit. So what's the relationship between comply with standards and whether a permit is issued or not?
Tracy?
Yes, through the chair. The comply with standards is the timeline standards. And as you can imagine with COVID and some of the challenges of receiving information and getting back to people, some of our timelines weren't met in the prescribed timeline. So that's what that's relating to.
Thank you. I was just wondering whether it had anything to do with the project themselves, but your explanation makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
I see no other hands. So can I ask Michelle to call the roll to receive?
Mr. Chair, if I can interrupt,
thank
sorry.
Thank you, Anna.
I'm not sure which way to go sometimes. If I may, just have a follow-up question to Ian's comments about Bill 108 with our previous recommendation. And given the challenges and concerns about the increased violations, will that be part of the, when it comes to Section 28, will that be part of the conversation that you will be having when it comes to Bill 108 with these concerns?
Ian?
I, through the chair, I'll start answering and Tracy can jump in if she has more to add. So Anna's reference back to the letter to the minister and AMO's interest, it really is the position of Conservation Ontario and most of the conservation authorities that a lot of the concerns with conservation authorities, the reason Bill 108 was even enacted is around our regulatory role. But Bill 108 seemed to go far more broadly than Section 28 with its recommendations. So in part, the letter that's gone to the minister is an attempt to say, first of all, Bill 108 is huge and complicated and will take a lot of time to implement. But secondly, we're willing to focus on Section 28 now and make it the priority to review. And I'm looking at Tracy, and even as conservation authorities, we know there can be positive changes to the Section 28 program that would help us as well. So we are trying to shift it in that direction. Now, Tracy, you and I haven't talked about this, but my impression of the fact that there's more violations during this COVID time period, and whether that's just pure coincidence that people are home more and ratting on their neighbors because they're home, or if it's because proponents are assuming this is an opportunity to push projects ahead, thinking that eyes aren't watching them anymore. I don't know. But I would say absolutely this will become part of the conversation. And I think it strengthens our position, it strengthens our role around Section 28, that there is a need to have some oversight development applications. And if the province's intent is to water down Section 28 or reduce its scope, this evidence, this COVID experience may provide some evidence to say that may not be a good idea. So that's my personal position, Tracy, and through the chair, if I think you have more insight than I do, if there's anything to add.
Sure, if I
Tracy?
may, through the chair. Certainly, I echo Ian's comments as well. And one of the other aspects of Bill 108 and what we're seeing with Section 28 and the comments that came forward was about consistency amongst CAs. So certainly, reporting and having these standardized timelines and these categories of permit applications is our attempt to be consistent amongst CAs. So we've kind of, as you've seen over the last year, we've kind of realigned our permit formatting and our application types. And again, that is to support kind of the early efforts in our streamlining initiatives for client services. So again, we've been working towards that, but the one piece of the puzzle that we really want to see is kind of the updated regulations, as well as the implementation guideline documents. Much of the guideline documents that we have from the province are from 2002. They need to be updated. So that has been our messaging from the beginning of Bill 108, and when comments were received, is let's make that our focus. So hopefully that will allow for, again, the same need, hazard management to occur throughout the province, the provincial policy, and then also our permitting responsibilities, and then to have that greater consistency amongst CAs as well.
Okay, Anna, is that satisfactory?
That is satisfactory. I appreciate those comments. I know to some extent they are personal, but it's important that we here understand what the changes, the positive changes that are required, and the consistency with CAs and the updates. All those things need to happen. So thank you for the comments.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, I guess my question is for Tracy as well. When we see planning matters come to the City Council in Woodstock, they'll always say, well, here's the comment we got from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority on that project. Does the reversal happen sometimes too, where something comes towards you and you have to ask municipalities for their thoughts on a project, especially in an adjoining municipality? And the one that kind of jumps off the page from our Section 28 report is the one on the Cobble Hills Road, which is kind of on the border of Oxford County and Middlesex, where there's a municipal drain in question. Would you get comment from both? If Middlesex is asking for, or Township is asking for something, you pass the report along to the adjoining Zora Township the other direction?
Tracy?
Sure, through the chair. Again, great questions. I guess first and foremost, when it comes to either Planning Act applications or permit applications, we are having those conversations with municipal staff. With permit applications, it can be the drainage superintendent. If a drain continues on to an additional municipality, it kind of depends. Sometimes there's that coordination amongst drainage superintendents, but if the work is very localized, there may not be the same. Again, it often comes down to the project scope, but I can assure you that we're usually in communication with either our drainage superintendents, our building officials, our municipal planners, because we're often wondering, yes, for example, a permit. Well, what is the zoning for this property? Is this even zoned appropriately to allow for what's being proposed? So there is that ongoing communication and coordination.
Mark?
I'm fine, thanks. Good
Okay.
answer.
I see no other hands. So, Michelle, could you call the roll to receive the report as presented?
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes.
Don Edmondson,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Ruffle,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Sandy Levin.
Yes. So we'll move on to item 7.3, the COVID financial impacts and response. Alan, would you move it, and Don, would you second it, please?
Yes, I'll move the report.
Seconded.
Okay. Ian and Christine are here for questions. Ian, did you want to introduce this?
Through the chair, sure. I just want to remind the board, a month ago, we were faced with a pretty significant shortfall, as the report says, 1.25 million. Between then and now, we've reduced that down to about a $307,000 shortfall. And I just need to give credit to the managers and Christine. This has been an intense month trying to figure out how best to manage the finances. I will say the solutions have been difficult. In some cases, it's been opportunistic. We've had a bunch of staff vacancies that we just won't fill, and we'll take advantage of those. But there's been some creativity around our carry forward vacation, and Christine deserves credit for bringing those types of ideas forward. So from a staff point of view, I hope you interpret this as good news, and yet it is still a deficit. And it is a challenge that the board is going to have to consider as we work towards our 2021 budget as well, because we just do not see any way of addressing the entire deficit in 2020 without seriously impacting service delivery, services that are considered core, and services that are valued by the public. So beyond that, I think the report speaks for itself. Christine, I'm not sure if there's any high-level comments you want to make before we entertain questions, through the chair, if that's acceptable, but those are my comments.
Christine, anything to add?
Oh, not at this time, but there may be questions, so.
Okay. I just want to remind the board that the budget we approved in February had a $600,000 deficit. So this is actually on the positive side of news. Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I want to praise staff. You guys have made some very hard decisions, some real decisions that need to be done to weather this storm. And the storm will be over one day, and we'll be able to move on and then get back on track. But speaking for myself as a board member, I have no problem working in the next budgets to repair the damage as well. You guys have done an excellent job of finding every little bit that you can, and we'll just keep moving forward. It is what it is, and that's we're going to have to deal with the situation, and I can absolutely pledge my support moving forward to do that.
Thank you, Brian. Paul?
No questions, Mr. Chair, but two comments, two things that jumped out at me from this report, that both were staff initiatives. One was to deal with the pandemic after it happened, and that was to the elimination of the 1.9% cost of living increase. And I think that was a recognition that of the financial problems that the board was, or that the authority was going to be facing due to COVID-19. And there's not a lot of organizations that I think would have taken that step. And the other one was an initiative that was taken last fall that prepared us, put us in a better financial position before the pandemic, and that was the updating and the changes that we made to the fee schedules. And at the time, the explanation was that a lot of our fees were out of line with the amount of work involved, and also perhaps weren't up to what other authorities were charging for similar work. So by both of those initiatives and having us, the staff bringing the fee schedule to the board months ago, that certainly put us in a stronger position. So I think the staff has taken some initiatives, and those are two that really stuck out at me to deal with this situation, both after it happened and before it happened. So kudos to staff for that.
Thank you, Paul. I see no further hands. Can I make one suggestion, though, that we add a part B to this, that we ask staff to summarize this report and report to our municipal partners, because certainly our municipal partners are wrestling with the impacts of COVID And I think it'd be reassuring to see from us that there is no intent to any extra levy, but also that there really isn't any extra savings out of this. So can I get somebody to move that staff summarize this report for our member municipalities as a Part B?
I'll move that, and we can add that as a friendly amendment.
I'd be happy to second it as well.
Okay,
Anna.
Anna, thank you. So the motion now reads that the board receives the report as presented, and the board asks staff to summarize the report for our municipal partners. Seeing no further hands, Michelle, please call the roll.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes.
Don Edmonston, Don,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anne Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yay.
Jim Ruffle,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Sandy Levin.
Yes. 7.4, the conservation areas update. Can I ask Anna to move it? And since Tony's not here, can I ask Alex to second it?
I will move.
So seconded.
Jen, would you like to speak to this, or would you just like to handle questions?
I can just handle questions if that's okay, Sandy.
Sure. I see no hands for questions. Jen, how has things, how's the response been to the public now that things are opening?
You know, it's actually been really, really good. As I mentioned in the report, you know, when we were revisiting the budget and trying to determine, you know, what our numbers look like, we had nothing to go by. And just talking through it and trying to, you know, guesstimate as best we could what this would look like, and it's turned out to be much better than we've anticipated. Our seasonal campers are just glad to be back. Some of the restrictions that were put in place for their safety and stuff caused a bit of grief for some, but majority no, they just were glad to be back. When I look at, there was approximately 52 out of the 3 parks. There was 52 seasonal campers that did not return. But in that time, we've had 42 new people or new sites registered. So, I mean, people are just glad to be out and about, and there's always going to be the bad apple in the crowd that keeps us on our toes. But you know what? For the most part, it's been very good.
Okay, thank you. Joe?
Yes, I just had a question about, I noticed there were problems with opening in the Grand River area. We haven't seen anything like that, have we?
Jen?
And are you referring to that weekend where they had to shut everything down?
Yes.
Yeah. No, we haven't seen anything like that. That was a concern of staff, though. Again, we were seeing a lot of people coming from out of town to our parks, and from different areas that the green space might not be available or be open. So it was a concern. We just continually monitored it, and were fully prepared to do the same as what the Grand did, shut it down if we had to, but it didn't come to that for us. So.
Thank you.
Good. Right. I see no further hands. So I'll ask Michelle to call the roll that we receive the report as presented.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes.
Don Edmonston,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Ruffle,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Sandy Levin.
Yes. 7.5, the Environmental Targets Progress Report. Can I ask Nancy to move it and Ellen to second?
So moved.
Yes. I'll second it.
And Chris and Ian are available to answer any questions on the report. I see no hands. Ian, Chris, would it be appropriate to ask you to summarize this as well? Oh, I see many hands now. I'll go to the list. Marie, then Brian and Paul.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I was just kind of wondering with the target plan for 5 years with the reduced funding, is the idea to extend the planning more than 5 years now, or what's the thinking on that?
Ian, Chris?
I can start. Marie, fair question, because this year, obviously, the municipal levy contribution was far less than planned, and yet, as the progress report shows, some of our revenues, usually through contracts and other sources, has far exceeded what was anticipated. So for now, I think our progress we're comfortable with. And yet it all becomes dependent on subsequent years, because contract funding has been great for now, but that goes through cycles as well. So if you had have asked me this at the time of developing our 2020 budget, I would have said the answer would be we would be extending our timeline to achieve the targets, because we just weren't having the investment we felt we needed. And yet, if you look at the global balance of the targets budget, we're still not where we need to be, because transfer payments have gone the opposite direction, but it's not as bad as it would appear. So I don't have a solid answer if we're going to have to change the timeline, but it's certainly one of the things that we consider as we keep updating this each year. So Chris, I don't know if you have any rambling answer either.
Yeah, no, I mean, with everything that's been going on in the shuffling of our budget and the preparation for this meeting, when we started talking about remembering that June is when we would start drafting our next budget, I kind of started to sweat again, because I thought, oh, here, we're starting again. But yeah, other than that, just kind of, it'll be part of that kind of conversation as we get into it.
Okay, yeah, I guess I was just kind of looking ahead to the next budget and wondering if there was going to be a request for additional funds for this, since we reduced it. But I guess we'll just monitor that.
Okay, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, to ask a question, all these great projects that happen to have buy-in from the business community and residents and everything like that, would any of these projects have happened without us doing our strategic initiatives, or are they all directly tied in with that?
Ian, Chris?
Yeah, I'll start, Chris, and you can add. I can't say they're all because of the strategic direction. I mean, this type of work we've been doing for decades. The difference now is I think we're doing more of it. So the number of projects you see listed, and perhaps the size of them, would be more than we would have otherwise accomplished. And I guess the difference now is we're doing it within a structure that tries to, we have a goal in mind, that we're actually working towards something measurable. And it's almost a bit of a cultural change in how we deliver the operation, where I feel we're being much more aggressive but strategic in that aggression in pursuing these projects. And I would say some of these projects were successful in getting them because we have the strategic plan, and we can say, it's one more argument to a funder or one more argument to a landowner if you need it, about why this is a good idea. So, but Brian, I can't say where the line would be, exactly in terms of dollars or number of projects, that these ones are due specifically to our strategic plan and these other ones we would have done otherwise. But on the whole, I think we're doing more and they're much more strategic in their delivery. Chris, any addition
Totally
to that?
agree. As somebody who chases money and funding, it gives you the background piece with new information, new direction, new motivation that helps in securing that funding. So it kind of looks like you have your crap in order when you're going out, and you can tie it in when you're applying to your funders and where this fits in. So yeah, and it's one of the challenges in writing this report. Some of this would have happened, but there is more that's happening, and it is the tool that helps us to leverage being able to do more.
Hey, Brian?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna channel my inner Marcus Ryan, since he's not on the board anymore, because this was one of his big things, was he wanted to have accountability through reporting to be able to show what was happening over the long term. And so this is a part of it. And that's why I asked the question. It's a double-edged sword. Can we show where we're making increases for the extra value being put into it, or is it just a continuation of what we're doing? Because at the end, I'd really like to be able to show, okay, we put the extra investment in. These are the results from that extra investment over what we would have done. And I know it's extremely difficult to do because you're just adding on to what the normal business plan is anyway. You're just expanding it. But I know that was one of his concerns, was that if you can't show a measurable result, then people are not going to buy into it. And you're not going to be able to tell at the end of the day whether you made the difference you wanted to, or whether it was just happenstance that it happened to happen along with what you were doing before. So anything we can do to show that difference and track that is always appreciated.
Thank you. Paul, then Mark.
Just to you, Mr. Chair, just a minor detail question, and it has to do with on the page it is headline water quality target, and it talks about Upper Thames lands, and it mentions that agricultural land would be tendered again in 2020, and we made a decision at the last meeting to move that back to 2021. And I realize this is a report on 2019, but I just want to make sure that that's clear, that change has been made.
Okay. Good point. Ian, I'm sure you'll take that.
Yes, thank you, Paul. We'll make that correction.
Okay. Mark?
Obviously, we talk a lot about reforestation and whatnot. I noticed the one thing was the amount of money that's received from various organizations or people, like the Guns Hill Limited Partnership, a $20,000 grant towards tree planting. My question to that is more of a reference to Allendale in the township of Norwich. Would that dollars therefore be spent totally in Allen's backyard, not specifically his backyard, of course, but Norwich Township versus elsewhere throughout the watershed? Do you gear dollars donated to specific areas and specific zones?
Staff would like to answer that.
Yeah, I'm
That would
looking
be
at
a
who's
Brad
on.
one. I don't know that he's on the call. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Hi, it's Teresa. I
Teresa?
I can just help you out with just that one in particular, but it's funders can decide if they'd like money to go to a specific area or a specific project. And in the terms of Guns Hill, they are part of a bigger project, so it's kind of being spread around. But it really is up to the funder. But in the case of Guns Hill, they're supporting that entire larger project.
Guns Hill, the wind turbine project is located in the township of Norwich, and they requested that the money be spent as locally as possible. So the bulk of that is being spent at Hodges Pond, which is, yeah, literally in my backyard. My grandparents' farm was right next to Hodges Pond. And Cowan Foundation has been involved in a few projects. They were also involved with Hodges Pond. So it is being spread around the area, but there is a lot of money that was spent in Hodges Pond restoration.
Mark, did that help?
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay. Marie.
Yeah, thank you. I had a question about the leases. They're talked about on the page that starts with water quality target. And it says that they're tendered on a 4-year basis. They're coming up again this year. They're expiring. And it says they were last tendered in 1996, but I guess that might be a typo. But I guess my question is, number one, are they going to be tendered? Because I know a lot of things are getting put off because of issues with the COVID. But also, just generally, do they tend to be the same people every 4 years that can, or do they vary? And I guess I'm asking because I'm wondering about the extent of expected buy-in on the new rules about cover crops.
I don't know who wants to answer that, Bill or Alex?
I think Alex is online, and he did highlight that typo, and I missed it, so that's my fault. I'm not sure what the year should have been, but I believe that doesn't jive with the sentence, so I think that is just a typo. But Alex, with regards to who the leases are, maybe you're the best one. I know you're in here somewhere.
I can take that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Bill.
Or Bill.
Yeah, we do get a lot of the same people apply to our tenders each year, but we do every year get a few new ones. Most of the ones are in the area of the leased property, but we do get some new interest each time we tender out.
Marie?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. I see no other hands. Ian, given that the targets generated some controversy around the board table and with some of the municipalities, is staff in a position yet to report to our municipal partners on our achievements with the targets, or do we need another year before we do something like that?
So you're right. The targets have been the main driver of budget, or certainly municipal levy increases over the past few years. So I believe we have a responsibility to report back to the municipalities, and I would suggest we'll take a version of this report and try and summarize it for them. I will note that in the past couple of years, when we did this report, it looked much fancier. It was a little more effort into production. This year, for a number of reasons, we just felt like we had to make it just give you the content and worry less about making it look pretty. So, but I would say it's in our best interest. We have to provide the municipalities an update. And if I can just reference Brian's comment, him channeling his Marcus Ryan. Absolutely, those who didn't know Marcus, he's all about the numbers. And but I will refer back to the very start of this report. There's a graph right at the beginning of the report where our challenge is the numbers we would love to report on are the actual water quality measures, the actual percent forest cover. But those are going to take a few years to respond to our programs. So in the first number of years, it's more about reporting inputs. So are we creating new programs? Have we developed new funding? Do we have new capacity? Are there new ways we're delivering and preparing and setting up for a whole lot more work to be done? So that's our challenge right now in our reporting to you and our reporting to municipalities, is our focus, and the only real tangible products we have are inputs rather than outcomes. But that that will shift over the years. And as we move towards developing our next set of watershed report cards, that'll really be the first quantified summary of outcomes. So long answer, Sandy, yes, we will share this with municipalities.
Okay, so can I get that, Ian, I assume you want that in writing from this meeting in the minutes. So that, can I ask somebody to move and second the Part B, that the staff be asked to report a summary to our municipal partners?
I move that.
Moved by Jim, seconder.
Second it. I'll second it, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. I think we need a roll on the amendment and then on the complete motion. So Michelle, please call the roll on the amendment.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes.
Don Edmiston,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Sandy Levin.
Yes. So on the whole thing together, that the board of directors receive the report as presented, and B, staff be asked to report a summary to our municipal partners. Michelle, please call the roll as I see no additional hands.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes.
Don Edmiston,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Sandy Levin.
Yes. Okay. On to number 8, other business, including remarks. Ian, any remarks?
I will just add a reminder that there's no July meeting, so wishing everyone a safe and enjoyable summer. In reference to Marie's comment earlier, I was going to make a remark that normally at the June board meeting, we're coming to you with what we call budget concepts for 2021. This year's different. We'll compress our budget development in the fall, so I will just throw that out now that probably starting in August, we're going to have to do the best we can, but given all this uncertainty, and starting to get some ideas and some staff direction towards a 2021 budget. And then finally, I just have to say on behalf of staff, the past few months have been very uncertain, and there's been, in reference to comments made about even returning to work, a lot of staff anxiety. We've done our best to communicate as much as we can what we know, but there's just so much uncertainty. But part of the reassurance, and I think the comfort for staff, has been the support that you've exhibited, whether it's just, through board meetings and the resolutions you're supporting, or through individual comments and emails that you've provided to me. So on behalf of staff, I do appreciate and want you to know that your support certainly makes a difference for staff. So with that, I'll say have an enjoyable summer is my remarks. Sandy?
Hey, thanks, Ian. Mark?
I guess about the only comment I'd like to make is more of a compliment to Jennifer Howley and her staff at the conservation areas. Our Woodstock Recreation Advisory Committee had a series of questions, and they weren't necessarily pertaining to trails and camping, et cetera. It was more to do with even watercraft on the water and kayaks and whatnot. So between Jennifer Howley and certainly her superintendent, Justin Skripnik at the PIDOC, I talked to Justin actually for quite a while on the phone one day to get sort of the philosophies behind kayaks and canoes and the horsepower of motors and boats and stuff like that, and some of the history and background on that and the sailing and whatnot in the PIDOC conservation area. So I just want to pass on the compliment to receive that great information that I could therefore pass along to the Recreation Advisory Committee with Woodstock. Thanks a lot.
Sounds good. Thank you. And Jen, I know she'll pass that along. All right, we have a confidential item to consider. I'd like to ask Paul to move and Anna Marie second that we move into closed session.
So moved.
So seconded.
And Michelle, please call the roll.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes.
Don Edmonston,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Sandy Levin.
Yes. So we have reported in public that we reported progress. Okay. Alex, would you like to move adjournment?
So move.
Thank you. Great meeting, everybody. Thanks for your patience and good discussion. Enjoy the rest of summer, and we'll see you towards the end of August.
Thank you. Have a great summer.
Thanks, Andy.